Fluffy! So Fluffy!
Where the cups?
You never had better. Here, hold on.
There it is. Cups are right there.
Rather than cups.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Done.
It's Joe approved.
Yeah, well, take me a little bit.
Talk for sure about ice cream.
I've been able to whiskey, smoking marijuana. I'll see you tomorrow. Going, oh, that's
Next one.
How you doing?
I live up here.
Good. Listen to this thing. That sounds like a hay baler.
Would you give it out without a spoon?
I want to know where the ice cream is.
Oh.
How you doing, bro?
What are you doing? I'm doing good.
I want you to.
Somebody get this. I want some.
If you want some, get your ass over here.
Yeah, you got it.
I want someone to hand me some.
Is that that pumpkin spice crap?
There you go.
How the hell do you get ice cream first?
I didn't get it
Me,
first,
Tres
did I?
Huevos.
This is orange sherbet for anybody that wants to know what it is.
That's okay, I got it.
Oh yeah, that comes out.
Well,
Well, yeah, it has everything on it.
Yeah, just give that whole scoop over here to me. I'll take care of it.
I miss you.
Yeah,
Sure they are. It's easy. But I didn't tell anybody that. I said I'm doing something more important.
Is that pumpkin spice ice cream? Yeah.
February.
Yeah, it is.
Strong.
What exact flavor? Is that just strawberry? What is that? That's
Let me
good.
come over here and give me orange sherbet.
That's good. That tastes good.
Oh, that's a new cup guy?
It's very good.
Yeah.
Not bad, huh? Yeah.
The spoon guy's still the same.
I can remember. I can remember Hank cranking that stuff. You know, 200 times you got it.
That's awesome. We used to go
That was a nice bicep, right?
Oh, yeah.
Brian.
That's good.
All you. Me. Where's Mr. Beavers?
Right, I'll talk in a second.
Oh, he's on a phone.
Okay,
We'll let
I'll
Sid
talk to you
go
in a little bit
first.
about it, okay?
I was taken by surprise to do this, but just happened to have my USB stick. I was able to plug it into my brain. Some of you may hear this again tomorrow. Billy Holcomb, you know, is king of the mountains, queen of the desert. So our first clamp out, by the way, our first clamp out is where the fall clamp out will be. It's Silverwood. You ought to go there. That's with Billy Holcomb. That's where the charter occurred. Our second event was in Hammett, up there by the Hammett Estates, just around Lake Hammett. The third clamp out was here in Holcomb Valley. And what we did there was we refurbished a Platrix plaque and re-put it up.
What rat bastard? What rat bastard? Decided to stop here?
While Sid's getting this stuff, I'll talk a little about 1990 when I was a humbug. We had a clamp out here in Big Bear, and it was the second time we'd been in the mountains. My second clamp out, we were up in Big Bear, stayed at the Boy Scout camp, and we went back up and did that in 1990. And it's the king of the mountains and king of the deserts, but it was mostly deserts, and I had to really work hard to get into the mountains, and all the graybeards were against it. And finally, Sid said, I have one thing to say on this subject at the meeting when they were deciding where my clamp out was going to be. And he said, although I don't generally like going to the mountains, I think Beavers is a good idea, so that's where we're going. And everybody kind of looked at the meeting and went, whoa, okay, mountains sound good. So we went up, had a great trip. It was really nice weather. And when they used to fly the space shuttle on the back of the 747, after a historical talk, we were walking along the ridge line at the Boy Scout camp, and the plane banked over the top of the ridge about 1,000 feet above us, so you could see it was huge. And some clamper was funnier than shit, looked up in the sky and he goes, look, up in the sky, 2 planes fucking! And you get all the clampers out there just busting out laughing. Okay, Sid.
So I have to indicate something to Wes and you guys. I'm not against trees. The problem is to have a clamp out in the mountains is a problem for us because we are so large. And even when Wes is talking in 90, we were so large that most campgrounds. So the clamp out I'm talking about occurred in Holcomb Valley, at the Holcomb Valley campsite. And there was only like 40 of us there. And so we had no problem. But if we were in Barton Flats for a 4x trip several years ago, we had to take 2 full campgrounds. So that's the issue. And, you know, trees are nice. You know, you've seen one tree, you've seen them all. But in the desert, you know, every bush is different in the desert, right? So anyway, so we then came back. Wes is in 90, that's the 3rd time Holcomb was here. So we did come back to that Hickok, I think that's what it's called, Hickok Scout Camp.
That was in 82.
With Platrix.
No, 83, yeah, in the spring.
It was a joint clamp out, and we put up another plaque. Now, there's a cabin there. I can't remember. I don't think that's the Pygmy cabin, but it's also a bar. Was a bar there. So they have 2 plaques like this, and we were up here. And then we came again and stayed in a Girl Scout camp and put up a plaque to the Big Bear Dam, which I think has been replaced since they rebuilt the dam, and to a Girl Scout camp. So we had 2 plaques at once. And obviously we had several 4x4 trips. If you guys go to Holcomb Valley, tomorrow I think Paul is going through Holcomb Valley, so unfortunately you'll hear some of this talk again. But the place where supposedly Billy Holcomb discovered the gold, we stopped there one time, and a bunch of us found square nails. There's still square nails up there, so it's a very interesting area.
Also, the closing scenes of Patriot Wagon was filmed in Holcomb Valley.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't
Where
know that.
where they're leaving and you see the long wagon train.
Right.
That was filmed in Holcomb Valley.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
How
And I
cool.
got a question to the whole group. Does anybody know if this is a Doug's fir right here?
No.
No,
That's a sugar pine.
Sugar
Is it sugar
pine.
pine?
Or Ponderosa.
Could be a pondy, but I think it's sugar.
That's a Ponderosa. These all.
Give me some sugar, would you?
I ain't easy.
I need something in my coffee. Could be.
Yeah.
Now it's time to run into motorhome.
Let's go over here.
I think I'll run into home. Motorhome.
Okay.
Would you please all face the American flag? What I would like to do today is
One over here.
pledge of allegiance. Since I cannot tell you enough about him, I am going to read what it says in our history book. And I want to thank Mike Johnson for an excellent book, and Scooter and Mark and everybody for including this. It says, Billy Holcomb, 1069, salutes our veterans. You may be wondering why your wristband says Max Soviak, United States Navy, 08-26-27, Afghanistan. May God bless Max. A few days after our summer 221 Vituscan trip, this brave Navy corpsman died with 12 other service members in a suicide bombing at Karzai International Airport, Kabul, Afghanistan. This evil attack targeted women and children who were frantically trying to evacuate the airport and causes the death of 183 people. This was the highest single-day ground death toll during the 10-year Afghanistan campaign. It was widely reported that 13 Marines died, as the media were not originally aware that one of the 13 was an Army soldier, and another a Navy corpsman from Camp Pendleton, assigned to Ghost Company, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marine Regiment of the 1st Marine Division. Maxton Soviet was described as a hard charger, fondly referred to by the Marines he lived and worked with as Doc. He was in a place of safety when Corpsman Up was called. Max was immediately responded and was providing aid to an injured child when the bomber ran up and detonated his explosive device. Max was killed instantly. In a strange twist, 1 week earlier, his parents started the process of adopting an orphan Afghanistan child that Max had been photographed holding during an airport rescue. This famous photo gained worldwide recognition, but to Max, he was simply doing his job. ECB Billy Holcomb salutes Max and all U.S. servicemen. Written by Scooter Trash. Let us take our hats off in honor of Max and all those brothers and servicemen who gave their all so that we could be here today in this wonderful country, enjoying this wonderful fellowship. Okay, now following my agenda.
Handwritten on cardboard just for you.
So I want to, on behalf of the Billy Holcomb chapter, I want to thank all those military personnel who are with us today who are currently serving, and I want to thank all those veterans, whatever branch of the service they were in, to have dedicated their time and part of their lives to make this country safe for all of us and to allow us to continue to be who we are. So what say the brethren?
Satisfactory!
So recorded.
Truly noted.
Now, the other thing I was asked to remark, it's really tough for a Marine to do this, but there are 20 Naval servicemen here, veterans, who are here to support Mark. And I want to thank all of you guys for coming out, because Mark needs all the support he can get. Okay, now, somebody wrote my agenda. I want to particularly thank the Squeebob members for coming out, supporting us, and all the other chapter dignitaries and members that are here. We really appreciate your support of our group and the Vituscans, and having you with us greatly enriches our events because you always bring some new life to us. And so I'm grateful, responsible, greatly, really happy to have you here. I also want to recognize our noble grand humbug, Mikey Moore.
Mikey!
Stop waving, we know
And I
you
just
are.
want to give a quick plug for the fall clamp out. Second weekend in October, it will be where we first chartered. That's where I was fortunate to be one of the charter members. That'll be at Silverwood in Las Flores Ranch, and it should be a great time. The shirt's going to be really cool, and the patch, it's all part of the original October 1969 doings. Lastly, this chapter, as you know, is very fortunate to have 3 living ex-sublimes. All 3 of them are here today. So let me acknowledge ex-sublime Noble Grand Humbug Brian Nash. Ex-sublime Noble Grand Humbug R. Wesley Beavers. And then the old fart ex-sublime Noble Grand Humbug Sid Blumner. We are all 3 of us are ex-sublimes, as you know what that is. We are really grateful to have come from this chapter. And when you guys think about it, each and every one of you has contributed to making this chapter the powerhouse that it is. Thank you very much. Scooter, I'm done with my agenda.
Oh yeah, that's what it looked like.
Awesome.
I don't know if you guys want to say anything at all. This is, no, we're good. You good? There we go.
All right, we just
Hey, it's always a pleasure to do the toppers
and I always try and figure out what's going to be the next best one. And there's one thing I always try and do. I always try to do better next and be the best next time and the best again.
Great job.
You nailed it.
This topper here, yeah, I'm pretty excited about how it turned out.
Yeah,
And they cut me a week short.
Satisfactory!
And I just want to say, like, some of you familiar with John Robinson's book, The San Bernardinos, whatever. You read all this cowboy stuff, there's ranches and stuff. Hey, this is it. This is it. This is the real thing right here. As they said, 7 generations. This goes way, way, way back. This is really a big deal, and you all ought to look into it a little bit and learn a little bit more about it.
There you go.
Thanks for letting me help.
Do we have anything else? Scooter.
You run out of cardboard? You know what Dennis always said? The natives.
I didn't know I was going to do this. So, and now, please correct me. You're here. I was very happy when I wrote the words. Ron checked them, and he only made one correction in my stuff. That made me very, very happy. So, cattle ranching mostly started the really big heyday in the 1860s. Those of you who know about the Great Flood of 1862, that was really was a really big flood. Before that, when they had cattle on the Mexican and Spanish ranchos, they didn't kind of so much ranch them; they just grew wild out there. And when they needed some, they'd go out and get them. The meat, there was no refrigeration. They were good for a hide and tallow, which is like the lard. You can make candles out of it, and do other things with it. The meat, some of it could be eaten and some could be jerked for later, but mostly it wasn't about the meat. It was hides and tallow. So in 1862, a bunch of the cows literally in the San Bernardino Valley literally drowned out in the fields. And then ironically, right after 1862, there's a giant, long-lasting drought, and thousands of these cattle die from drought. And about that time, people start coming up with the system of bringing cattle into the pretty green. It's August, it's summertime here. Look how green it is around here. Graze them in the summertime in the mountains, and then in the wintertime when the snow comes, take them down on the desert. Your Rattlesnake Canyon that you're going on today, some of you, that's like a main route down. We're going to go over by Rose Mine, another main route to take the cattle back and forth down to the desert. Places down there, Old Woman Springs Ranch and Rabbit Springs and Box S Springs. Any place kind of where there's water there's people with cattle down there. So after around World War I rather, that's when it really kind of peaked. Big demand for beef during the war. You have cattle, huge herds of cattle just roaming wild. Then they built Big Bear Lake in 1885, I think. That's a huge big valley. Now that's taken out of use as a cattle grazing area. Lake Arrowhead's later at the very end of the 19th century. It gets built, that takes out another huge area. You can still see they don't raise cattle up on the hillsides. They raise them down in the flat green spots like here. So there's still clearly a cattle industry here. This was part of the Irwin Ranch first, and then became the Hamilton Ranch. That's correct. And I've always thought what a weird connection. I'm into World War II stuff. Hamilton Standard airplane propellers. That's the guys who owned the ranch before them. I thought that's kind of interesting. So World War I, demand peaks, and then after that, the war's over. The demand diminishes. The civilization keeps creeping up from Big Bear City. There's starting to be rules about how many cattle you can run, where you can run them, and it didn't go away, but it certainly knocked it down to a much smaller size. But this right here is a living link. It goes right back to the very beginnings of it, and still going on just the same way here.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Doc.
I came out for you're not putting up a plaque? There's no plaque dedicated.
I have to get some Windex.
Oh, wait. I give Al.